Hey everybody, Troy Trygstad here with Pharmacy Times. I'm here with Jack
Vallandingham.
Vallandingham. That sounds like a very good Iowa name.
Sigourney, Iowa.
And Sigourney, Iowa is about how many people?
2,500 people, county seat town.
2,500 people, county seat town. And you've been practicing here for how long?
18 years.
18 years.
Yeah.
And so you grew up?
I grew up in central Iowa, a small town, 800 people or something.
You go to pharmacy school?
Went to pharmacy school at the University of Iowa.
Okay.
Graduated, and I've been practicing ever since 1964.
1964. And all in small communities, right?
All in, well, the first 10 years was in Los Angeles area.
Oh, okay.
So I worked for chains out there for 10 years. Then I came back to Iowa. And
Okay.
It's been small communities mainly. Fort Dodge, well, St. Joe, Missouri first, then Fort Dodge, Iowa, then Sigourney. I've owned a store here twice. I owned it, sold it, bought it back, put it in the grocery store.
So you've got a unique perspective because you worked in an urban environment for your first 10 years and then you moved back to a small town Iowa pharmacy practice. What are the major differences between the two?
Well, you get to know the people much more intimately than you do in a big city. You know, here I know their parents and probably their kids and their relatives, which makes it good in some respects and problems in other respects maybe.
And why would it be a problem?
Well, I don't know. You know, get to know, well, that was so-and-so and so-and-so's kid.
It's a small town after all,
yeah.
right?
The bad thing about, the good thing about a small town is you know everybody's business. The bad thing about a small town is you know everybody's business.
So what are the biggest barriers or challenges to having a small pharmacy? So Jack's Corner Pharmacy is embedded in the little supermarket on the town square. It's so neat. I ran by there early today. What are the barriers and challenges associated with that practice environment and trying to keep that pharmacy open?
Well, a couple things. First of all, you've got to make sure you've got a supply of physicians to do the prescribing, because little towns you don't always have that. That's a big worry, number one. Okay. Number two probably is living with the insurance area today, because they don't like to pay enough to keep guys in a small town. Yeah, what happens.
And so you rely a lot on staff.
Oh,
You have
yeah,
staff from the community, they're from here.
Very good staff from the community, excellent, yes, I do.
Now I have to ask you, we are sitting in front of a very interesting library, and we're actually at Jack's house in his basement, and the entire crew came in. They immediately went from that door to this spot right here. We have original Gray's Anatomy, pharmacological principles of medical practice. People started grabbing books off the shelf, physiological chemistry. This is an amazing collection.
Well, the
Why do you have
books
this
I've
collection?
acquired over 55 years of being in pharmacy, and one of the things they taught us in pharmacy school was to have a good library, and especially out here in the middle of nowhere, a good library. Now with the modern electronics, it's not quite so important because you can hop on the internet and find out a lot of stuff. But
So it's very impressive, though. Just because you're a country pharmacist doesn't mean that you're not capable of both taking care of patients and knowing the latest and greatest
well, we have to try and do
mechanics.
that, because you know, like I said, probably 60 or 70% of the drugs on my shelf weren't in the market when I got out of school.
Sure. So keeping up, but what about care team relationships too then? So you've got a small hospital in town.
Yeah.
Again, compared to that urban environment practice, what's that relationships with those other care team members? How is that different?
Well, it's probably good in one way, because I know the doctor and I call and say I'm talking about patient X. Oh yeah, I know them, and I said, yeah, you know their brother and whatever. So the thing is, they know a lot more about the patient, not just their health-wise, but some of the other things that are going on in their life. You know, they may be taking care of a wife that's suffering from something that's going to make her die. So they're trying to live with that. That's all gets to be involved with what we're doing. And you know which ones are going to probably take their medicine right, and which ones are going to say, I'll take them for a couple of days and quit. You know, and the doctor knows those same people too.
So I heard from a little birdie that after all these years in owning a pharmacy in Sigourney, Iowa, that you did sell your pharmacy this year, and you sold it to the local hospital, right?
Yes.
And this is still an independent hospital in the county.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And so, what went into that decision? You probably could have sold to anybody, but why them?
Well, I wanted to make sure that I was going to sell it to somebody that was going to keep it open. Because you get in a small community anymore, you worry about, oh, well, the doctor leaves and all of a sudden they're shutting up the pharmacy. You see that going on quite a bit. University of Iowa is pulling some of their clinics out of small communities. That leaves the community in a bad fix. They got to have a doctor, and people aren't. You're going to go to the doctor, it's not there. So
Yeah. So going into your decision to sell was making sure that the patients that you've been taking care of for a long time still get taken
Still,
care of by
yeah.
somebody locally.
because I have some people that can't get out of town for one reason or another, do not want to do mail order. You know, they want to know where the stuff's coming from, so they're really happy to be able to walk into my pharmacy and get a prescription.
Do you have any anecdotes or stories about somebody coming in from 5 or 6 miles away, maybe they live on a farm, and having an interaction with a patient that might be different and a different experience than you wouldn't have anywhere else, except rural America, upper Midwest America?
Well, I had one fella come in, I know, and he was quite upset because his wife had just suddenly got diagnosed with cancer, and all of a sudden he was the caregiver, never been a caregiver before. He's got 6 or 8 different meds he's got to give the lady, and he was just about in tears, wanting to know how to do all this. Well, we set him up with some daily dose stuff so he could do it and keep track of what was going on.
So you found that to be very successful.
Oh yeah, well, it helped him a lot. Okay.
So sort of the monitoring and tracking of patients maybe is the future of community pharmacy practice because they're in front of you a lot.
Oh, certainly, that's going to be it. We've got to, we're more than just dumping them out of the bottle and counting to 50 or 100 or whatever.
Right.
Those days are gone, okay? We've got to be involved with what else is going on with the patient, and the only way to do that is to kind of keep up with it or else. So.
Right. And if you had a magic wand to pass the torch to younger pharmacists that wanted to work in a community, what advice would you give them?
Well, it'll be a lot more rewarding than anything you're going to do in the big city, where you don't get to know your people. And like I said, you see them in the drugstore, you see them on the street, you see them at church. Like I said, you get more involved with their lives.